So hi guys, Evolving Oceans Toolset is going to be my presentation about our Ocean Toolset. And I'm Hristo from Botoship. We are specialists in things that explode, things that are on fire, this kind of stuff. Lately we have been doing a lot of characters, some interesting developments there, which are another discussion, and environments. We started doing stuff in Houdini late 2019. We jumped cold turkey. We moved from Max and we haven't looked back there. Solaris USD switch was done earlier this year, and now we have almost switched to top speed EG, etc. Like hopefully one of the last big jumps, famous last ones. So today, this is our team. Some of you are here in the room. We're going to be talking about what we did to get the Ocean Toolsets, the new stuff that is now ready to work in an actual production for us. We have plenty of shots. Usually our projects are like several dozen or about 100 shots. And we need stuff to work in a way that is very productive and very quick. So there's going to be three big areas. One of them is going to be treating the procedural ocean. So how we made it work with our needs. Then how we liven up that surface a little bit, just so it's not as boring, so it's more interesting. And then some solvers that we had to build to make interesting animations for boats and cameras. So to start with the ocean, this is our beautiful reference. This is the Tassos ferry. Everybody's been there. Yes, I wish this was this is in our dreams, our aspirations. But yeah, this was the real stuff. So people might wonder why the extra work. So first I want to apologize that there is not too much at this section. We don't have too much stuff from actual productions yet, just because this is still work in progress. It's going to be a couple of months before we can show anything. But I hope it's still going to be interesting. So the tools that are coming from Houdini, they are great, and they enable you to build on top, which is their main goal. But yeah, they are a starting point. And for us, so one of the important things was to get the oceans to be completely USD portable, because nowadays we don't move around Houdini files like we used to. We just move around USD files. So every person which is down in the pipeline can open up the USD render of the previous guy from the pipeline and can continue working from there, which is really good because you can work completely visually. So you are there in Shotgun, and you can, let me just verify my recording is still on. So over there in Shotgun, you can see if you like something visually, or supervisor can. And then they can say, okay, let's move on from here. You can pick up the USD, and it has everything that you need to keep working from there. So we definitely wanted to have also the oceans, which are depending on some other external files, to also be as portable as that. We have the same spectrums across many shots in a project, because generally the director approves a certain look. So I say, okay, this is the spectrum, this is the look, the height of the waves, this is the amount of choppiness, etc. And in all different shots, different cameras in the project, we need to generate it over, and we want to do it, in a very smart way, so we don't save too much data. So that's something that we can also address. And we want to split up the process and make it very modular, just so that we can chain up a lot of people in the process. One person is going to be designing an initial spectrum, which is going to get mostly approved. Then somebody else is going to work on the shading. People are going to get this ocean to put effects on it, and etc. So we want to make it modular, and the original one is quite compact. So quickly about the procedural oceans. Basically with Houdini 20, the way that you do oceans changed maybe, and previously the displacement that was making these great detailed beautiful ocean surfaces was done in the shader in Mantra, which made it so that it can only be used in Mantra, which some people might not like. And the new workflow that, because Mantra being discontinued and things moving on to Karma being Material X and generally open, XPU, all these good nice things. Made it so that you can't really do things the same way. So SetFX guys made a Husk plugin, which is basically something which stays in the middle between the USDT scene being loaded and the renderer starting to render. And this is the thing that actually dices and expresses the geometry. The cool thing is that you get both the small render file, like previously, because there you only write a small render primitive, which then gets the only dice and etc. in render time. But you also do this before the render engine, which means that you can do this with any render engine, unlike previously with Karma, with Matrix, sorry. And then also you can use any shader with these other different renders, which is also great. So the first challenge was to make the ocean portable. So generally, when you start, it relies on a file that it picks up from somewhere. So you have to bake the ocean into a file, then point this file into the spectrum. So what we into the procedural ocean spectral parameter. So what we did was to chain up a few operations. We started doing this with ROPs only, but now we're switching to PTGs, and Toolset is much more convenient, obviously. These spectrums get saved, and then the USD layer that contains your ocean, gets saved additionally because it has some more information, like the geometry of your render primitive. And there is a couple of output processors which can tell it to collect basically all the files, and this makes it completely portable. So from then on, every time that you render out the ocean and you load up a different scene, load up the same USD, like we said earlier, you can extract the ocean spectrum from this USD and do anything you want with it, like generate different camera, render primitive from different camera, or like send it to geometry to create effects on it, etc. Watch. We can generate the render primitive, which is usually something that is bound to the camera first, unless you want to do some patchwork of different render primitives, which happens sometimes when you have like foregrounds, midgrounds, backgrounds, or some other like special scenario. And this gets helped out by the remeshed camera. But we had to do a bunch of other things because sometimes you don't want this geometry to be changing topology, and you have an animated camera, so you have to do some stuff like trail the camera, get a broad first turn from all of its trail to turn the entire edge, etc. So a bunch of these things that helps us on particular shots to generate the render primitive every time that we need it, which means that basically when we have a new shot opens, we can simply simply open up the task for the lighting guy. He can pick up the render from any previous scene, and with a new camera, get a new ocean regenerated for this new shot. And there's also stuff that we did underwater, which is kind of similar. Basically, uses the camera first on, etc., to create all of the geometry which sits under the surface. Of course, you need also some proxies, just to be able to quickly find your way in the viewport. And that's quite straightforward. Again, using the same remesh. This is a little bit more data, so we try to keep this very coarse. So because sometimes shots are long, so you don't want to save too much data to the disk, but enough so that you can have some ocean near the important actors in the shot, so you know kind of what happens around your ships, etc. You don't need this to be all the way to the horizon or anything. And again, this is easy to get generated from the camera. The shader is much simpler than it used to be, fortunately. And again, it's material like shader, so you can render it any render. Literally, we can switch tomorrow to rendering with VRA, let's say the oceans, and it's going to work. So there are two shaders that we use. One of them is only surface, and the other one is a combination of surface and underwater. And they are a combination of geometry and shader. When you have a surface-only shader, that's a much simpler situation because you have just surface geometry, fewer bounces, etc. So we use it when we can. It oftentimes happens with wide shots, camera high above the water, this kind of scenarios. Sparse lighting. There is no transparency, and it's faster to render. When we are in the other scenario, that we have both the surface and the underwater, then we just generate some more geometry. The shader has a sort of dielectric surface for the thing at the top, which reflects obviously and refracts. It has a uniform form for the stuff underneath, volume underneath, and then we can stuff a bunch of point simulations or like smoke simulations into this volume, so in depth we can have some bubbles or this kind of stuff. We put the shaders in a gallery because we felt like this is the fastest way to deal with the shaders. HDA is a little bit pleasant generally, because the Solaris is not yet great at having custom, like writing down custom interfaces to complex shaders. So still the gallery simply override here and there. Again, our beautiful reference. Okay, so here we talk about the foam a little bit. I think I showed this also that if you have FMX, but all this stuff happened after that we just talked about with the procedural options. So the main reason that we want to have some foam is basically that it makes your oceans much more alive. Just having the surface is nice, but anything that is more interesting and movie stats in future, more interesting oceans, we have to admit, fortunately. So we don't often do this kind of sunny windy day with no wind. This kind of beach scenarios, so we don't do much in the movies. So foam is good, and the reason that the places kind of that we like to put them at is that when we just do the deform of the ocean, except lacking just here there are some foamy bits and splashes to break it up. It doesn't have this history of wave caps breaking up and then covering there, like the foam staying there under it, which is something which is very cool in the actual ocean. And that's something that we definitely feel like when this history is lacking, the whole thing feels less connected, less sophisticated and interesting. And like in a previous talk I had, it's very practical to get the pop fluid to create a great foam simulation. You force it into 2D. Basically, you make the y coordinates, the p dot y, make it 0. Poke some holes into the source point fields, and then you push them up in some turbulence. So around these holes, cells form because the pop fluid is really good at creating these thermal shapes. The question is, when we know how to make these things in 2D, how to put them on the picture ocean. So there's two ways that we can easily do that. One of them is to use simply a texture. That's very simple, but very fast, very handy for this big ocean surface that you see way the distance. Don't need to do anything crazy, or you are very close to the camera. You won't spur crispy details on the phone that are difficult to simulate. So this texture workflow lies again on Material X, and in this case on Karma's Hextile node. It basically is a texture scattering thing where you can have a texture that gets scattered around. It has variable scales and rotations, etc. And most renders have different have implementations of something like this. I know that V-Ray has like graphic tiling, and I've seen also RenderMark has something like this. And the cool thing is that when you have Material X shader, you can probably do a switch if you do a different render, but this workflow is valid for calls. So this is a way to scatter the foam cells, but of course you need to also make them appear and then gradually fade out. So to do that, we have a very simple snowbird, which takes the crest attribute of how low resolution water surface, and it ages it. So over time, we kind of subtract a little bit from it at every frame and add when the crest is high, so it kind of gradually fades out. We save this geometry, and then we bring it one plane with a point cloud in the shader, so we can use this attribute as a mask. And this makes it so it only appears at the places where it was when the foam is fresh. There are some limitations here, of course. So this hex style doesn't support animated textures, so you don't see kind of the foam way. This is quite mitigated by the distortions that the ocean environment gives to the UVs, so it's not as bad. But still, for some places where you have to, if the camera holds one position for a long time, it's definitely going to be something quite buggy. The other disadvantage is that these shapes are not extremely connected to the shapes, as I said, small shapes of the crests of the waves, which also points to the here that we have the kind of eye in the crest of the wave missing, and for this we need obviously something a little bit more sophisticated. So this a little bit more sophisticated thing is this workflow. So here basically we have now a simulation which is in place, which means a particular piece of the ocean. It has a simulation that is assigned to it, and points get sourced from the crest of the waves. A bunch of different elements get simulated. You can see that there is a smoky element, misty. There is a splash element for the crest of the wave, and there is again this simulation for foam on the surface of the water, which uses the same quite effective simulation method, but this time is sourced from the correct areas, and is it's simulated with the exactly correct ocean. Here we don't need this texture, we need these points, which also lets you do some more interesting things if you want to have foam underwater, stuff like it. Okay, so next we go to the kind of boat motion solvers. So we did that because there is very often ships at sea. So we hardly have just oceans. This would be not extremely interesting. So we usually have something happening at this ocean, and the ships that we have to animate very often need to react exactly to the way that the ocean is. This kind of stuff, being hand animated, is kind of a forgiving task. So doing something procedural, it was kind of a good thing to have. Besides that, we had something which we inherited from a previous workflow, but it was not very user friendly, so we just like update was necessary. So the most simple thing that we could come up with was to just get the transform for this ship. That is our FP here, to come from the minimal amount of information. So this minimal amount of information is a point where the boat is, and an up vector, and is something that you get from surface, but basically a plane that is defining the orientation and position of the boat. It is the most basic. So we get a triangle to define this plane. There's a simple bounding circle or something like this. Was called or just a circle that you do much. But this most the node that I use most much transform, and you make the circle with three angles. So basically, you get a triangle, and when you point from this triangle, it floats on the ocean. Now, this is quite good. You can get normal from this triangle. You can get the centroid and distance from the centroid and point at front to get the up vector. And this is very easy to translate to USD because you can simply do a copy the points of the packet USD primitive. And in geometry, then you can read it back from Solaris, and you can say, I want the transform attribute. So the file that you end up with when you write this USD is super tiny. You just write the transform per frame basically, and you can overlay this afterwards with your asset to place the high resolution boat. So this is very simple. It's effective in other places. Sometimes it isn't though. So we noticed that, especially if you want to have your boat kind of having a lot of propulsion, moving kind of intently forward, the ocean deform is stretching out and compressing, and this makes it have some kind of backward motion here and there. Motion will be a little bit, less intense. So we went to the next method, which was a projection-based one, which is quite simple. But instead of deforming the triangle that defines the boat itself, we formed a region around that triangle, and we projected the triangle from the top out to the surface. Now, obviously, now the surface is deforming and stretching and so on, but not our triangle. So this is much more stable. We get a more intense motion, which again looks better. But for some shots where you have a hero ship, you want to have dynamic, bouncing, buoyancy behavior, especially noticeable when the waves are a little bit choppier. So when the wave comes and goes, you want the boat to kind of be popping in the ocean. And to get that, we moved to a third solution, which is kind of the same, but adding a simulation. So we are using the same 3 points on the vertices of this triangle, but we connect them with soft constraints, and we give them a buoyancy force based on a rate that they cast up. So if the point is underwater, it casts a ray upwards, and if it hits the surface of the ocean, this means that we give it a buoyancy force which is proportional to the distance to the surface. And this means that each of these spheres at the points in this triangle are gonna be independently buoyant, and the result is that you get a nicely tensing boat. And there is a little bit of damping to control the oscillations, just because there is a interplay between the gravity and the buoyancy force, which makes things oscillate. But when you dampen it up a little bit, then it settles down near the surface of the ocean. Of course, obviously a bunch of post things you can do to shift the thing a little up a little bit, etc. This is getting the bullet solder applied. Some propulsion is easy to add by just giving it some force. We thought about doing some kind of a propeller simulation. Not yet, maybe eventually, we'll see. So this is very cool, dynamics-wise. I think this is the thing that you see here in the animation. So you can see it reacts nicely, pops up and down. But when you have a very, very long ship, like an ocean tanker or something like this, then in the choppy waves, you start seeing that it will be more dramatically the ship twists and bends. So the last kind of simulation, the next level at least, you could do is to do the same process with the joints, but split up the hull of the ship, the prox, of course, of the hull of the ship, split it up into pieces, and then constrain these pieces, and again apply the same buoyancy force, etc. And like you see, all of these setups, everything is building up on the previous one. So you use the simplest one that you need, and each of the next ones is using as much of the previous ones as possible. And this thing is nice that you get all the bends and twists and distortions, which is easy to overdo. It looks cool, but you can get bendy, too much spaghetti ships. Which is again, it's a very cool method, but it has the disadvantage that because now your ship is deforming, now you can't just write a transform which is super compact. So now all of a sudden we have to deal with much more data, and the way we have figured how to deal with that is that we only deform the very, very big pieces, and usually these assets, like big mechanical assets, they have some very big pieces, which is their hulls, basically, and there is a bunch of small pieces, which is all the decoration, all the nuts and bolts and the details, and like on the ships you have, all the kind of rescue gear and all the radar, etc. So you can deform the big piece, and then when deform with it all packed small pieces, and then these small pieces you can express only as transforms, because then they'll be packed and forming this actually transforms. So this is something that saves a bit on the data. then okay, our boat moves nicely, but what happens to the camera? So this is an R&D that we did for a recent project. Of course, these are not oceans or ships from the actual project, but it's something that we did for R&D. So there is this quest for a good camera motion that we have in these scenarios, because the simple camera that we start with is often looking a little bit not interesting, just because it's extremely smooth on the surface of the water. You can add some kind of mimicking handheld shakes to it, but the camera that is actually on a chase boat in the real ocean does not just shake, it reacts to the ocean itself. So we decided to try to just put to have like another boat solver for this chase boat, and put a tripod on top of this boat. The tripod was kind of a simple mistake. And generally, this gave us a motion that I feel like is more believable. It's complex. You have the boat moving through the frame up and down. You have the chase boat reacting after or before, the actual big waves when they happen, which feels extra connected. It's not just something that floats immaterially along the surface of the ocean. So how we did that? We take one of the boat solvers that we have from the previous stage, whichever is the simplest one that works for the scenario. And then we applied to another boat, which is next to the ship that you're shooting. And then we placed a simple tripod pan tilt rig on top of this boat. So this pan tilt rig just means that there's a transform which has a pan, which is like a rotation in the y-axis, and tilt, which is rotation in the x-axis. And this happens before the transform that we extract from the actual moving bullet. So just overlay these two things on top, you can animate then a pan and a tilt. So you could be the director of photography on the boat who is panning and tilting the camera. Of course, you can add some extra shakes with kind of making wind shake or vibration from the boat to give it some extra life, which is another level. It's even interesting, but this is a good foundation for like an interesting, exciting, convincing, well-connected DSLR camera world. That's pretty much what I had to say. Big hugs again to everyone. Thank you guys for coming up. If you want to get in touch further, if you have any questions about this, I'll gladly send you things to check out. And you can get in touch at our website or find me social media. And yeah, let's see you next. Thank you.